think that, and this has been true for me personally, because I've been up until the last few years, it's been hard for me to deal with it as I pastored, especially. I didn't understand. But the thing that I think that young pastors and any pastor could understand is that conflict is a part of life, and I've mentioned that already. Every church is going to have conflict. In fact, if you don't, there's something wrong. I always say there are some churches that don't have any conflict, but they're dead. Because the only persons that don't have conflict in their life are dead people. It's been determined. Their eternity is determined. So I think that we have to understand it's a part of life. It's about managing it. As I said earlier, everyone wants to have a conflict-free life, but that's just impossible. You've got to manage it. And then if I would say to leaders, not only manage it, but also embrace it. You're never going to have, I don't believe in the whole term conflict resolution. I believe in incident resolution. So Apostle Paul had some people he had conflict with. I mean, you take Peter and even Demetrius, the coppersmith or whatever, those kinds of, there were different issues, but he confronted it and he resolved it. John Mark was another. He got to that point where he said, okay, I'm going to confront this and I'm going to get it to the point where it's part of my bigger conflict of life, but I'm going to resolve this incident. And you see what happened as a result of that. John Mark, at another point, joined him. And so I think one of the things we do is we think that if we can't completely do away with it, then we're not successful. And that's just not true. It's about how managing it and then embracing it. Some of the times when you have teams, and I know you've done a lot of work on teams, when you get teams together, you need to expect that. As a matter of fact, it's good. Because when you come together in a team meeting, you diversify from going in with a certain attitude or a certain idea, and you listen to the rest of the team, and that's the diversification, that's the conflict. And you come out of that with a new understanding that you may have got a lot of what you wanted, but it's more of the team is owning it. You may have come out of there with nothing that you wanted, but the team is owning it instead of just you. This is particularly true for pastors and leaders. I think that a lot of times we think that as a pastor, we've got to get everything we want. That is going to be one conflict after another. If you're going to do life like that, if you're going to do your leadership like that. So I think it's important that we come back and say, okay, conflict is my friend. It's going to be a part of it. And I'm going to manage it like I manage a grizzly bear, or something like that. So that I know going in that there's going to be I call it the collective brilliance of the group. You bring that brilliance together and you say they're going to make this idea that I have or whatever it may be. I'm going to make this better. If conflict comes out of you being pig-headed or just stubborn, then you've got to see, okay, I've been stubborn, on this issue. And you may be completely right. And then you've got to say, okay, I know I'm right and I got to be right on this issue. Then you say, okay, I got to stand my ground. Most of the time, it's not like that. That's an extreme. So I think as a leader, you need to go into conflict and say, hey, I'm going to have it. I'm going to expect it. I'm going to manage it. And I'm going to get to it quicker than I have in the past.